after Christianity took back Spain from the Moors in the 14th century, they wanted to root out all non-Catholic elements in the country and unite it under Catholic rule. The church demanded that hundreds of thousands of Jews convert or leave. Many Jews agreed to convert, and they became known as conversos. The slang or derogatory term given to those who were not totally sincere in their conversion was marranos, which means pigs. They openly followed the Christian faith, but covertly held true to their former identity and agendas in secret. They intermarried with the nobility and rose to the highest ranks in government and the church. And according to Jewish-born author Dr. Henry Mackau, and I quote, "They pretended to belong to a target group, but like the Freemasons, they had handshakes to recognize each other, and they met in secret at night." The founder of the Jesuits was a converso, and so was his successor. The Society of Jesus, as the Jesuits are formally known, was started in the 1530s by Ignatius of Loyola, and he was a Basque soldier who compiled a series of esoteric spiritual exercises, which, when performed, well, they were performed by all of the male order, and there are no Jesuit sisters. So these spiritual exercises consist of mental exercises, meditations, prayers, and other practices which were designed to improve a person's spiritual vitality. Another way of expressing this spiritual or universal force is the Asian term ki or chi. In India, one might come across the word prana, which is said to be controlled through breath and posture and the various forms of yoga. Prana is the Sanskrit word for life force. Vril is another name of this life force energy that theoretically fills the universe and all living beings. Helena Blavatsky, the foundress of the Theosophical Society, described this Vril energy as an ether stream that can be transformed into a physical force. The Vril Society was a secret organization in Germany devoted to mastering this unseen force of nature. They accumulated and combined the guarded alchemical knowledge of this life force that's contained in Sufism, Aryan Hindu mysticism, theosophy, Nordic and Sumerian mythology, pagan sex magic, channeled material, and the Kabbalah. According to esoteric and yogic teachings, sexual energies can be channeled, stored, and harnessed.
It may seem like a mistake, but it's not. Pope Francis was listed among the 50 most influential Jews in the United States. The list was published by the Jewish Daily Forward, which is an American publication. It's no secret that one of the Pope's closest friends is Jewish Rabbi Abraham Skorka from Argentina. In fact, they both co-hosted a TV show in Buenos Aires, which focused on interreligious dialogue. They even co-authored a book titled On Heaven and Earth. The Pope has publicly called for an end to anti-Semitism, and he has expressed a great interest in traveling to the Holy Land in 2014, among other reasons, as a way to end tensions between both religions.
Just to check out some other names that you might know, that you might already suspect that they are European Jews, you know, even Rock Hudson. Pope John Paul also was a Jew, you know. And you have other ones down here, some of them you know, some you might not know.
As a young boy, Jerzy Kluger became close friends with a young boy named Karol Wojtyła, who back then was nicknamed Lolek. They were about 5 years old. They sat next to each other in class, played soccer, and enjoyed life in their hometown. But their friendship was cut short. Jerzy was Jewish, so during World War II, he and his family fled to avoid the Nazi regime. That young friendship is the basis of a book titled The Pope and I. Its author, Gianfranco De Simone, describes how after the war, the young boys thought that the other had been killed. But years later, their paths crossed again, when Wojtyła was elected Pope. In fact, his first private audience was granted to his Jewish friend.
In an email reacting to my lecture on the Jesuits of Jewish origins at the Jesuit Ricci Institute in Macau in November 2007, a Jesuit told me briefly the story of his Jewish lineage. While the other Sephardic ancestors went to Istanbul, Baghdad, Tehran, and through the Silk Road up to Shanghai, when they remained Jewish until today, both his grandparents were descendants of Jews who settled in Palermo and Trabia in Sicily, where they converted to Catholicism in order to survive. In the baptismal registers, which are still extant, they are described as usurers. Yet, they kept practicing Judaism secretly. From Friday evening through Saturday evening, his grandfather would hide the image of baby Jesus from a large framed picture of Saint Anthony that he kept in his home. It was, in fact, a wind-up music box. On Fridays, he would wind up the mechanism and push a button so that Jesus would disappear out of Saint Anthony's arms, hidden in the upper frame of the picture. On Saturdays, he then would push the button again so that Jesus would come back out from hiding into Saint Anthony's arms. As eldest son in his family, my correspondent was told this story by his father, who passed away in 1979, who also had asked him to eat only kosher food. None of his siblings were required to do so. They in fact hide their origins, since they are a devout practicing Catholic family. The first part of the title of my book, The Jesuit Order as a Synagogue of Jews, reflects the genealogical identification of the converted Jews and their descendants, no matter how distant, with their allegedly infidel ancestors. It was characteristic not only of some renowned Talmudic authorities and of the late medieval and early modern Christian authors, but also of some contemporary historians. Alfred Sikroff described this trend as the ulcer of the Spanish existence. It is telling that, for instance, the titles of both the anti-converso legislation at the San Antonio de Sigüenza College, Statutum contra Judeos from 1497, and the major contemporary work on Spanish conversos by Julio Caro Baroja, Los Judíos de la España Moderna y Contemporánea, published in 1961, so 500 years later, reflect the identification of conversos with Jews, even though, after the expulsion of 1492, there were officially no Jews in Spain, as there were no Jews in Portugal after the expulsion in 1497.